If you're hearing this, it's because I need a record. Something outside my head. Something I can play back when I start to wonder if I imagined it all. My name's Matt. I live with my wife Sarah and our son, Noah. He's 6. We moved into this house 8 months ago. Small neighborhood, quiet street, good school district, all the things you're supposed to care about when you've got a kid. It felt like a fresh start. It doesn't feel like that anymore. It started on a Thursday morning. I remember because it was trash day, and Noah had already dragged the empty bin halfway back up the driveway. He always wants to help now, even with things that aren't his job yet. I was still in my pajamas, walking out to grab the mail before starting work. There was just one envelope in the box. No stamp, no return address. Just my first name, Matt, written in clean, almost too perfect handwriting. Red ink. I paused. My name isn't on the mailbox, and we just switched out the old one last month. It doesn't even have a number on it yet. At first I thought maybe Sarah left me something. A note, some kind of inside joke. But when I walked back inside and opened it in the kitchen, everything changed. There was no greeting, no signature, just a single sentence in the middle of the page. You've changed a lot. I liked you better before. I stood there, holding it over the sink. I read it again, then again. The handwriting was smooth and steady, not angry, not sarcastic, just neutral, like an observation. Sarah came into the room a few minutes later. She was rushing, trying to get Noah's backpack ready, didn't even notice the letter. I almost showed her. Almost. But I didn't. Instead, I folded the paper and tucked it into the junk drawer beside the fridge, between old batteries and twist ties. I told myself it was a prank. Maybe one of the neighborhood teens, bored and weird, or someone meant to leave it for a different Matt. That's what made the most sense, right? But even then, even as I made my coffee and kissed Sarah goodbye and got Noah to the bus stop, something was wrong. It wasn't just that they used my name. It was the way they wrote it. Like they'd known me for a long time, like they'd been watching. That night, after dinner, I checked the locks twice. Sarah asked if I was okay. I said yes. I lied. Because whoever left that letter, they didn't just know who I am. They knew who I used to be. I tried to brush it off, that first note. I told myself it had to be a prank or a neighbor messing around. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The paper didn't feel like a joke, and whoever wrote it knew my name, knew something about me, something I hadn't shared. I didn't mention it to Sarah and didn't want to freak her out, or worse, have her think I was letting work stress get to me. She already worries I don't sleep enough, that I spend too much time on the computer. She wouldn't have taken the letter seriously. I was planning to forget the whole thing. And then the second one came. It was the next morning. I stepped outside to take Noah to the bus stop, backpack dragging behind him like a parachute. And when we came back, there it was. Another envelope tucked under the welcome mat. Same ink, same paper, same slow, steady handwriting. My name on the front. But this time, the message was shorter. Nice navy shirt. I preferred the green one yesterday. That stopped me cold, because I hadn't left the house yet today. Not once. And I had changed in the upstairs bedroom with the blinds drawn. There was no way anyone could have seen what shirt I picked unless they were in the house, or close, really close. I walked the perimeter of the house twice that morning, checked the windows, looked for footprints under Noah's window. Nothing. Sarah asked me if I was looking for something. I told her I thought I'd dropped my keys. The truth is, my hands were shaking. That night, I stayed up late in the living room, pretending to work. I left a lamp on near the window and kept glancing out into the dark. I didn't know what I expected to see. A figure standing across the street. Someone crouched in the bushes. But there was no one. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching me change, had seen me pick my clothes, knew my routine. And if they could see me now, were they watching the rest of my family too? Was it just about me? Or was it about all of us? I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the hallway for an hour after everyone else went to bed, just staring at the front door, listening for the sound of paper sliding beneath it. It never came, but I still couldn't stop thinking, if they're watching me this closely, how long have they been doing it? And how much do they really know? I started keeping the letters in the drawer beneath the toaster. Not for any real reason. It just felt like the one place no one else bothered with. Sarah hated that drawer. Called it the graveyard for batteries and expired coupons. Now it was a holding place for fear. 3 days passed. Nothing arrived. I started to breathe a little easier. Told myself maybe that was it. Just a weird one-off thing followed by a lucky guess. Maybe someone overheard me talking about shirts. Maybe a neighbor got bored. Then the third letter came. This one was waiting for me inside the screen door. Same envelope, same red ink. But this time, it was folded tighter, like someone had been in a hurry. The paper had a small fingerprint smudge in the corner, faint, like someone tried to brush something off. The message? How's Sarah sleeping these days? She still get the dreams? I froze because Sarah's nightmares, the ones that made her twitch in bed, sometimes cry out softly before waking up, weren't something we talked about. Not with friends, not even with family. And she never posted about them, never even called them dreams. She just said, my head feels loud again. Only 2 people in the world had ever called them dreams. Me and her sister, who died 3 years ago. I didn't tell Sarah about this note, not yet. She was already tired lately. Work stress, Noah's school meetings. She didn't need this. But that night, I stayed awake again. Not out of curiosity, not out of paranoia, but out of fear. Because whoever was writing these letters wasn't just watching us now. They knew things from our past. Private things, intimate things, things they shouldn't know. I reread the note again around 3 a.m., standing barefoot in the kitchen. My eyes kept going back to that one sentence. She still get the dreams? Like it was from someone who used to be close, like it was personal, like it was a reminder. Started pulling the blinds shut before sunset. Not because I thought it would stop them, whoever they were, but because it made me feel like I was doing something. Like I still had a say in what parts of our lives were visible. That evening, Sarah asked if I'd seen the scratch on Noah's window. I hadn't. We went upstairs after dinner. His room faces the backyard, a little higher off the ground than ours. The kind of window you'd need a ladder or something tall to reach. But sure enough, there it was. A thin, curved scratch etched into the glass. About eye level for an adult. It wasn't random either. It looked deliberate. A single arcing line, not deep but long, right across the middle. Like someone had dragged something sharp across it. Once, cleanly. Sarah frowned. Probably a branch in the wind. But there aren't any trees near that side of the house, and the line was too high up to be a kid messing around. I waited until Noah was asleep and Sarah had gone to shower. Then I stepped outside into the backyard. It was quiet. Too quiet for how close we are to the rest of the neighborhood. I looked up at the window. Nothing. I checked the grass under it. No ladder, no crates, no disturbed soil. Just a small patch of dirt beneath the siding where the rain usually runs down. But something was off. The dirt there had been compressed. Not dug up, not messy, just flat. Like someone had been standing there, watching. When I came back inside, I checked all the windows again. Every lock, every curtain. And still, I felt exposed. Like I was locking the doors after someone had already been through them. That night, I sat in Noah's room after he fell asleep. Just a little while. The kind of thing you tell yourself you're doing because you happen to be passing by. But I stayed too long. Watched the wind flicker against the scratched glass. I couldn't shake it. They weren't just watching me anymore. They were getting closer to the house, to my son. And that was the night I made a decision. If another letter came, I was going to tell Sarah. No more hiding it. No more pretending it wasn't happening. Because whoever was doing this, they wanted me afraid. And it was starting to work. I finally told Sarah. Not everything. Just enough to feel like I wasn't drowning alone. I said someone left us weird notes. That they mentioned a shirt I wore. That one of them referenced her bad dreams. She frowned, but she didn't laugh. She didn't accuse me of overreacting. That was somehow worse. She just looked tired. It's probably just a neighbor being creepy, she said. We can set up cameras. You've been saying we should anyway. I nodded. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about cameras. This wasn't about someone passing by. This was about someone knowing us. That night, I went digging through old boxes in the garage, looking for something, anything that might explain how we were being watched. Old phones, junked out routers, maybe an old iPad with a camera still connected. Instead, I found something I hadn't thought about in years. An old notebook, mine from college. Sarah had doodled in the back pages when we first started dating. Inside was a list, names we joked about giving our future kids before Noah. One of the names was circled in pencil. Milo. We never used it. We had a miscarriage before Noah. We never talked about it much. Sarah hated the name afterward, said it reminded her of something unfinished. Only the two of us ever knew we'd picked that name. And that night, after dinner, I found a note taped to the underside of Noah's pillow. No envelope, no red ink this time, black marker, rushed, slanted. Just 3 words, underlined once. Milo was better. I didn't sleep at all. I sat in the hallway, outside Noah's door, all night. I kept thinking about how close someone had to be to put that note there. How deliberate it was. How they were trying to cut deep now. Personal, not just creepy. Whoever this is, they don't just want to scare me anymore. They want to hurt us. It was almost midnight when I finally broke down and installed the motion lights. I'd avoided it for weeks. I told myself we didn't need them, that the neighborhood was safe. The cameras and lights would just scare Noah more if he noticed. But after the note about Milo, I couldn't pretend anymore. I spent the whole Saturday running wires and screwing fixtures into the siding. One above the driveway. One at the back corner facing the yard. One over the sliding glass door. When I was done, I felt a little better. Just a little. That night, I sat on the couch and watched the backyard on my phone through the cheap camera feed. Nothing moved, just whined in the grass. The faint sway of the tire swing we hadn't used since the cold set in. Then, around 1:16 a.m., the light by the sliding door clicked on. My phone screen lit up. Motion detected. I clicked the live feed. No one. Just the light flooding the porch, catching a sliver of our reflection in the glass. I scanned the yard. Nothing moved. No shadows, no animals, no wind. The light clicked off after 20 seconds. Then came the sound. A slow, deliberate tap, 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 like knuckles against glass. I froze. Another tap. Closer this time. I set the phone down and stood, every instinct telling me to stay quiet, to move slow. I tiptoed toward the kitchen and peeked out from behind the archway. The motion light was still off, but someone had dragged their finger across the foggy glass. A single line smeared diagonally, and below it, a word. Looking. I didn't open the door. I didn't call out. I just stared. After a few minutes, I backed away and went upstairs to check on Noah. He was still asleep, breathing softly, one leg kicked out from under the blanket. I stood in his doorway for nearly an hour. In the morning, the word was gone, wiped clean, like it had never been there. But I know what I saw. And now, so do they. Sarah asked me to grab the winter coats from the basement. It was early November. The temperature had dropped fast, and she didn't want to wait until the last minute to unpack things. I didn't want to go down there. Not because I was afraid of the dark, but because it felt like something had changed in the house. Like every quiet corner was listening. Still, I went. Our basement isn't finished. It's concrete floors, wooden beams, and one flickering bulb with a pull chain. We keep the coats in a plastic bin under the stairs, beside the holiday lights and old baby toys we keep pretending we'll donate. I found the bin, popped the lid, reached inside, and there, resting on top of Sarah's navy parka, was a Polaroid photo. I hadn't seen one in years. The edges were curled slightly, like it had been tucked into something for a long time. But the image was fresh, not faded. It showed a blurry shot of our backyard, taken from behind the fence, the one that backs up to the creek, where no one ever walks. At first, it seemed like a simple photo. Trees, fence, overgrown grass. But in the lower corner of the image, barely visible in shadow, was a figure. Standing, watching the house. They weren't facing the camera. Their head was turned slightly, as if listening, or waiting. I didn't tell Sarah, not right away. Instead, I slipped the photo into my back pocket, zipped the coat bin shut, and carried it upstairs like nothing happened. That night, while she and Noah watched a movie, I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at the photo under the light. I flipped it over, hoping for a date. A note, a smudge, something. There was nothing except a small pencil mark in the corner. A single number. 3. The next morning, I checked the drawer where I'd kept the letters. There were now 2 Polaroids. I hadn't put the first one there. I was sure of it. But now, there were 2. The one from the basement, and another I didn't recognize. This one showed our front door. Nighttime. Porch light on. And through the tiny window at the top of the door was the back of my head. Me. Standing in the hallway. Whoever is doing this isn't just watching us. They've been inside before. And I don't think they ever really left. I needed to know if they were still coming to the house. That's what I told myself anyway. That this was a test, a trap, a way to confirm what I already suspected. Whoever was watching us wasn't some distant, faceless figure. They were close, brave, too brave. So I set up a camera. A small one, cheap, discreet, hidden behind the potted plant on the front porch. I angled it toward the welcome mat and set it to start recording on motion. Then I waited. That night, I sat by the window with the porch light off and my laptop open. The camera feed was grainy, but it worked. I watched every flicker of wind, every passing car. Hours passed. Then at 3:08 a.m., the doorbell rang. Not a knock, not a scrape, just one clean chime. Ding dong. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. After 20 seconds, I opened the feed. Nothing. The porch was empty. The mat was undisturbed. No envelope, no shadow, and no wind. I replayed the footage. At exactly 3:04 a.m., now the screen glitched for just half a second. A single frame. And in that frame, paused perfectly, I saw it. A hand pressing the doorbell. Thin. Long fingers, no visible sleeve, no ring, no scar. Just a pale hand. Pressing. Holding for a moment. And then gone. I didn't go outside. I didn't even tell Sarah. I just sat there and stared at that single frame on loop. Because now I had proof. I had evidence. But it didn't make me feel safer. It made it worse. Because the question wasn't who anymore. It was how. How did they disappear? That fast? How did they know exactly when I'd be watching? And how long have they been standing just outside the frame? The 10th message didn't come in an envelope. It came as a text. Unknown number, no contact name. Just a bubble on my lock screen at 4:41 a.m. You used to hide under the sink when your parents fought. You still clench your fists in your sleep. I dropped the phone. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I knew it was true. When I was 6, my father threw a plate. Not at anyone. Not even in anger. Just shattered it against the kitchen tile. I crawled under the sink and stayed there until my mom found me with her eyes full of worry and her voice too quiet. I didn't think anyone alive knew about that. I never told Sarah. I don't even think I told a therapist when I tried it for a few months in my 20s. And the fist thing, that was something Sarah only mentioned once. You always sleep like you're ready to fight, she'd said. Half joking, half worried. Now someone else knew, someone who was watching me sleep. I didn't respond to the text. I didn't block the number. I just turned off my phone, placed it face down on the kitchen table, and sat there until morning. Sarah came downstairs later with her robe wrapped tight and her hair tied back, and she paused, looked at me for a long moment. Another one? I nodded. She made coffee, sat down beside me. She didn't ask to see the message, didn't ask for the details. She just said, "We can't let this keep going." I wanted to agree. But how do you fight something you can't see? How do you chase off someone who's already inside your life, who knows your childhood fears, your sleeping habits? This isn't about fear anymore. This is about invasion. And they're peeling my life apart piece by piece until there's nothing left I can call private. Later that night, while brushing my teeth, I found another Polaroid, slipped behind the mirror in the bathroom cabinet. This one showed my childhood home. Dark, empty, boarded windows. Taken from the same angle as the photo in my mother's old album. Only this time, the kitchen light was on. It was raining that night. Not heavily, just a cold, steady drizzle tapping on the windows and sliding down the gutters like whispering fingers. Sarah and Noah were already asleep. The house was quiet, but I couldn't settle. I kept hearing things, not loud, just off. A creak from the back step, a shuffling sound in the leaves, a soft click like a latch moving. I told myself it was the rain, the wind, the natural noises of a house breathing, until I heard the voice. It came from the backyard. At first I thought it was the television, something Sarah had left on in the bedroom, but the volume was off. I stood still at the kitchen sink, holding my breath, listening. The voice came again, faint, wet, just on the edge of audible. "You still leave the gate open?" I froze. The backyard gate. I hadn't touched it in days, no reason to. We don't even use it anymore, not since the fence started warping. I didn't even know if it could still open. I flipped the kitchen light off and moved slowly toward the window above the sink. Pulled the curtain back just an inch. The backyard was black. The porch light wasn't on. But I could just barely make out a shape, not moving, not walking, just standing, watching the house. I stared at it for minutes, waiting for something, a twitch, a head tilt, some sign that it was a person and not just my imagination wrapping shadow into a human outline. Then, the voice again, clearer this time. "You're not protecting them." I don't remember deciding to move, but I turned away from the window and ran upstairs. I checked on Noah first. He was fine, sprawled sideways across the bed, his blanket wrapped around one leg like a snake. Sarah was asleep, too, but I stood in the doorway watching her chest rise and fall until I was sure. Then I checked the backyard gate. From the second-floor window, I could just see it. It was open, wide, swinging slowly in the rain. Whoever they are, they're not just trying to scare me anymore. They're trying to make a point that they can be anywhere, anytime. Even close enough to whisper through the dark. And the worst part? I'm starting to believe them. The gate stayed open all night. I checked it 3 times before sunrise, and every time I found it swaying in the breeze, the latch loose like it had been broken or picked. I didn't touch it after the first check. Something about it felt set up, like I was being watched to see what I'd do. Sarah noticed the next morning. She asked if a delivery guy left it open. I lied. Said I must have forgotten to shut it, but my hand shook when I poured my coffee. We were barely 10 minutes into the day when I found the next message. Not in a letter, not in a photo, but on the mirror in the upstairs hallway. Written in the faint residue of a wipe, like someone had drawn a word with their finger through condensation that no longer existed. Just one word. Noah. Our son's name. No smudge, no fingerprints. Just that single name, drawn at the perfect angle, as if someone had stood behind me and written it while I was looking at my own reflection. I scrubbed it clean before Sarah could see it. I don't even know why. Maybe I didn't want her to feel how I was feeling, that the house wasn't ours anymore, that every room now felt like it had 2 sets of eyes in it, ours and theirs. That evening, I checked on Noah's baby monitor. We haven't used it in years, but I pulled it from the closet, wiped the dust off, and set it up in his room. He didn't even notice, just asked if it was a walkie-talkie. "No," I said. "Just something so I can hear you better at night." And later, when the house had gone still, I sat on the edge of the guest bed with the monitor in my lap. For hours there was nothing, just Noah's soft breathing, the occasional rustle of a blanket. And then, at 2:37 a.m., the breathing stopped. I leaned closer, listened harder. No static, no wind, just complete silence. Until a second voice, one I didn't recognize, whispered into the monitor, "He's safest when you don't know." I jumped up so fast I knocked over the lamp. Ran to Noah's room. He was asleep, safe, curled on his side with one hand under his cheek. I looked around the room, behind the curtains, under the bed, even inside the closet. Nothing. Just the silence of someone else's words still echoing in my ears. They're not just watching now, they're speaking, and they're getting closer to him. Noah came home from school with a picture. Crayon on construction paper. His teacher said it was from quiet time, when the kids are allowed to draw whatever they want. The kind of thing most parents stick on the fridge. But this one made my stomach knot. It showed our house, rough, lopsided, drawn from memory. Green roof, yellow windows, a blue scribble that I assumed was a cloud. All normal, except for the figure in the yard. Tall, no face, just a black outline with long arms and legs, looming near the fence line. Worse still, Noah had written a name under it in crooked kindergarten letters, the friend. I waited until Sarah was in the shower to ask him about it. We were in the kitchen. I crouched beside him while he chewed on a peeled apple and said, as casually as I could, "Hey, bud, this person in your drawing, the friend, is that someone you made up?" Noah shrugged. "He's real?" I smiled, trying to hide the way my stomach flipped. "Oh yeah? Where'd you meet him?" He pointed to the back door. "Sometimes outside, sometimes in my dreams." I forced a chuckle. "That's spooky." He frowned. "He's not scary. He says things when I'm sad." "What kind of things?" Noah paused. "That I'm not alone. That he used to live here before us." That stopped me cold. I didn't know what to say. I kissed the top of his head, told him his drawing was very creative, and excused myself to the garage, where I finally let my hands shake. Later that night, I took the drawing back out of the recycling bin, stared at the figure again. Something about the way Noah had drawn it was specific, intentional. The limbs were too long, sure, but there was something chilling in how calm the posture was. It wasn't a monster, it was a watcher. Exactly where the last Polaroid had been taken from, the same angle, the same place. Only now it had a name. They're not just watching us. They're talking to my son. And worse, he's listening. I couldn't sleep after the drawing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure, the friend, standing in the yard, one hand raised in a still unbroken wave. So around 2 a.m., I went looking for answers. Or maybe I just needed something to do that didn't involve lying in the dark, thinking about what my son saw. I ended up in the attic. It's the one place I hadn't searched. I don't know why. Maybe because it always felt too far removed, like it belonged to the version of the house we moved into, not the one we live in now. But that night, I brought a flashlight, climbed the creaking ladder, pushed the hatch open, dust everywhere, old insulation, boxes of tangled lights and forgotten baby clothes, smell of dry wood and stale air. And in the far corner, half tucked behind a beam, was a box I didn't recognize, not ours. Inside was a leather-bound notebook, worn, cracked, pages stuffed with newspaper clippings and shaky handwriting. The kind of thing you'd expect from someone trying to document something no one believed. I brought it downstairs and started reading. It belonged to a man named Raymond P. Lewis. From what I could gather, he lived in this house in the late 1980s, alone, no kids, no family mentioned, and he was terrified. Page after page, he wrote about letters. Notes slipped into his mailbox with no stamps. Messages scratched into his windows. Photographs of his bedroom taken while he slept. He wrote about a man, or something like one, watching him from the trees. Sometimes whispering, sometimes scratching, always standing in the same place, near the back fence. The last entry chilled me to the bone. It read, "I haven't seen him in 4 days. I think he's moved closer. I heard him say my name in the shower. The mirror said it back. I think he's in the house now. If anyone finds this, please don't ignore the rules. He starts with the children." I sat there, alone in the kitchen, notebook open beside the last drawing Noah had made. 2 men, decades apart, same house, same watcher, same slow unraveling. And now, it wasn't just notes or drawings or whispers. Now, it was history repeating itself. The notebook haunted me. I kept rereading the last page. He starts with the children. I didn't know what it meant exactly, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just a warning. It was a countdown. Noah had started acting differently. He wasn't scared exactly, not like I was, but he was quieter, more distant. He spent more time staring out the back window, drawing strange figures with wide arms and blank faces. When I asked who he was drawing, he always gave the same answer. The friend. That night, after everyone was asleep, I heard something new, a sound I'd never heard before. It was coming from under the floor. At first, I thought it was the heating system and pipes clicking or shifting as the temperature dropped. But then it started again. Scratching. Not loud, just deliberate. Like nails, not claws. One line. Pause. Another line. Pause. Not like an animal scurrying. It had rhythm. I followed it to the hallway, then crouched near the vent by the stairs. I pressed my ear to the floor. And for the first time, I heard a voice. Muffled, but real. "Noah. Noah. Come down." My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. The voice repeated, soft, patient, too calm. "Noah, come down here, just like before." I stood slowly and walked to his room. He was asleep, but he was talking, not mumbling, answering. "Okay, soon. Just let me finish drawing first." I stood in the doorway for a long time. It took everything in me not to wake him, not to shake him until his eyes opened and I could say, "This isn't real. This isn't happening. It's just a bad dream." But I knew better. It wasn't a dream. It was an invitation. And if I didn't stop it soon, Noah was going to accept. The next morning, I checked under the floorboards. I didn't tell Sarah why, just said I thought something might be wrong with the pipes. She didn't question it, but I could tell she was starting to sense it too. The way she glanced at the back door more often. The way she kept Noah closer. The access panel beneath the stairs hadn't been opened in years. I pulled it loose and climbed inside with a flashlight. Dust, spiderwebs, rusted pipes, and something else. Cracks, thin jagged lines running through the wall beams, not caused by shifting foundation or moisture. These were drawn into the wood. Symbols, circles, eyes, dozens of them. Each mark was carved carefully, intentionally. Some small enough to miss, others as wide as my hand. It was like someone had been living in the crawl space, leaving messages, or worse, watching. I found something else too. A small cloth bundle wrapped in twine. Inside was another Polaroid. It was Noah again. But this time, it wasn't taken from outside. It was from above, the angle of someone standing directly over his bed. The edges of the photo were curled like it had been handled over and over. On the back, in faint pencil, "It's almost time." That night, I didn't sleep. I locked every door, every window, every vent. I closed Noah's bedroom door and sat outside it in the hallway, holding the flashlight and the old journal in my lap. I kept telling myself that this was just paranoia. But around 3 a.m., I heard it again, the scratching beneath the floor. And then, from somewhere deep inside the walls, 3 knocks. Slow, even, patient. And after that, the voice, "Don't forget. You invited me in." They're not just watching anymore. They're reminding me of something I don't remember saying yes to. Sunday morning felt normal. For about 10 minutes, we were in the living room. Sarah was folding laundry. Noah was watching cartoons with a bowl of dry cereal on his lap. I was just trying to keep my hands from shaking by staying busy. Straightening books, wiping fingerprints off the TV screen, anything. Then Noah said it. "Who's that behind me?" I looked at him. "What?" "In the picture," he said, pointing to the mantel. "That one." He meant the family photo we took last fall. The one with all 3 of us in front of the pumpkin patch. Sarah holding Noah's hand. Me behind them, smiling. Only, when I looked up, I saw it too. There were 4 people in the picture now. Behind me, just off my shoulder, was a blurred, stretched figure. Its face smudged, like it had moved as the shutter clicked. One arm extended down, fingers just inches from my back. The frame shook in my hand when I picked it up. I hadn't noticed it before. I couldn't have. That photo had sat on the mantel for over a year. I'd seen it 100 times. We'd printed 2 copies. One was in the hallway. I ran to check. Same thing. The 4th figure was there too. I didn't say anything to Sarah. Not yet. I pulled both photos off the wall and brought them to the garage. Snapped pictures of them with my phone. Zoomed in. The figure's head was tilted. Not down. Not up. Toward me. Like it knew where I'd be standing when I finally saw it. And just beneath its outline, almost too faint to notice, was a number written into the photo's texture. 4, same as the others. Same as the Polaroid. That night, I went back to the journal I found in the attic. I flipped through the entries looking for numbers. And sure enough, near the end, one page read, Photo 1, bedroom window. Photo 2, porch steps. Photo 3, kitchen. He's in all of them now. I think photo 4 will be the last. I put the journal down and stared at the living room wall, where the picture had been. Where something else might still be standing, even if we couldn't see it yet. I didn't tell Sarah about the 4th figure in the photo. I wanted to. God, I almost did. But how do you explain that a picture, a literal printed photograph, changed after you took it? How do you say that you're starting to believe someone, is not just watching your family, but slowly becoming part of it? Instead, I stayed quiet, and the silence was louder than I expected. That night, around 3 a.m., I was standing in the hallway again. It had become a habit, listening for sounds, watching Noah's door, trying to convince myself I had control. Then I heard it, a voice, not muffled, not whispered, clear, in the house, and it said my name. Not a shout, just a calm, level tone from the downstairs living room. I froze. It said it again. David, the way a friend would say it from another room. Familiar, patient, not angry, not demanding, just waiting. I didn't answer. I walked down the stairs slowly, one hand on the wall, the other gripping the flashlight I hadn't let go of in days. The living room was dark, still, but not empty. There was a figure standing just behind the couch, barely visible in the moonlight filtering through the curtains. Not facing me, not moving, just there. I didn't breathe, I didn't blink. I flicked on the flashlight and aimed it directly at the spot. Nothing. No one was there. But the curtain, the one behind the couch, was still swaying. And on the coffee table, written in the condensation from my untouched glass of water, was a single word: soon. I sat on the stairs until the sun rose. I didn't go back to bed. I didn't check the photo frames. I just sat there staring at that patch of floor where I had seen him. It, whatever it was, not just watching now, not just whispering, calling me by name. And the way he said it, it felt like he'd known me for years. I wasn't the one who found the next note. Sarah did. She was quiet about it at first. Said nothing over breakfast. Nothing while Noah packed up for school. But I could tell something was wrong. When he was out the door, she stood by the sink and placed the folded slip of paper on the counter between us. I found it in Noah's pillowcase. The paper was yellowed slightly, creased like it had been handled more than once. I didn't want to open it, but I had to. Inside were only 4 words. He talks to me. Not in Noah's handwriting, not in mine, not Sarah's. Just a blunt message in thin, slanted black ink. No date, no context, no name. I stared at it until the letters started to blur. Sarah didn't say anything else. She just turned and walked away. I think that was the moment she stopped believing it was all in my head. That was the moment she believed something had entered our son's world. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I laid on the floor beside Noah's bed, listening. He didn't talk in his sleep like before. Didn't mumble or toss, but just before 3 a.m., I heard a sound from the vent. A whisper. Not to Noah this time, but from him. He whispered the same phrase 3 times. I'm almost ready. I waited until morning. When the sun was up, when Noah was at school, when Sarah was finally convinced I wasn't just being paranoid, I opened the crawl space again. This time, I didn't bring a flashlight. I brought a hammer. I followed the sound I'd heard before. The soft scratching, the strange voice, the cold air that didn't match the rest of the house. I followed it to the far corner, and there, behind a loose piece of insulation, I found a second hidden compartment. A space just large enough for someone to sit in, hunched and quiet. Inside, empty food wrappers, a bundle of torn photos, a child's toy, one Noah had lost last summer, and a tape recorder. The recorder was old, scratched, but it worked. I pressed play, static, and silence, then breathing, shallow, wet breathing. And then a voice, his voice, calm and distant and low. He's letting me in, just like you did, just like the ones before you. The house remembers, the walls remember, and now, so will he. I dropped the recorder, backed out of the space, slammed the panel shut. That night, I told Sarah everything. The notes, the Polaroids, the voice through the baby monitor, the photos that changed, the journal, the scratches, the sound beneath the floor. For the first time, she didn't argue, didn't blink, didn't question. She just said, "We need to leave." For the first time, I agreed. We started packing that night, quietly, without telling Noah too much. Just enough to make it feel like an adventure. Let's go stay somewhere fun for a while, Sarah told him, while I boxed up photos and unplugged monitors. But just as we zipped up the last suitcase, the doorbell rang. 3 a.m. Sharp. No knock. No footsteps. Just one ring. We didn't move. I grabbed my phone to check the porch camera, the same one that caught the blurred hand weeks ago. There was someone standing there, but not a stranger. It was me. Same jacket, same face, same expression. And then the figure looked directly at the camera, smiled, and whispered something. No audio, no subtitles, just lips moving silently. But I knew exactly what it said. He's already mine.